Welcome to my cross-cultural presentation for my Women's Health course. Hello, my name is Rayana Ferguson. The topic that I have selected for my cross-cultural presentation is birthing customs. Birth is an experience that is pretty common and natural all around the world. However, it is such a unique experience for each person. For my presentation, I will be focusing on the birthing traditions and customs in both the United States and those in South Africa. As society has progressed, some communities have developed many rituals and customs associated to birthing, while others have applied new techniques associated with childbirth. In my presentation, I aim to analyze the importance of how women are affected if they are not able to participate in such rituals and traditions related to birth proportionately around the world. When it comes to having babies, every country or culture has its own traditions and customs. During my research, I learned that birthing customs is an umbrella term that encompasses and describes the preparation, the care, and the rituals that surround birth. The rituals and/or ceremonies that are incorporated with birthing customs are not only an integral part of a woman's pregnancy, but also for the overall birthing experience. Part 1. Demographics of health issue affecting women. What is birthing customs and how is it important to culture? Depending on their social, religious, or cultural background, women may develop expectations when it comes to pregnancy and childbirth. Culture plays a very important role in birthing customs because it influences a person's value, beliefs, and practice. Let us take a look at the birthing customs throughout the United States. The idea of birth in the United States poses to be very complex. Within the US, the current style of maternity care is procedure intensive, meaning it is traditional for women to plan to give birth in a hospital. Through research, I found there is a growing number of pregnant Americans that have had to make the choice between giving birth in a hospital or experiencing birth through a more personalized approach. Personalized approach refers to giving birth at home in, say, for example, a bathtub. 6 out of 15 most commonly performed hospital procedures are associated with childbirth. There have been many advances towards childbearing technologies such as fetal monitoring and pain control options like epidural anesthesia. For pregnant Americans, there is a sense of importance placed on insurance, whether or not they have quality coverage to give birth inside a hospital, practices of their providers, and hospital administration. The technological advances have made it possible for Americans to have a greater and more positive outcome of pregnancy and birth. On the contrary to the United States, in South Africa it is more common for women to take a more traditional approach to childbirth. Hospitalizations and surgeries are only usually performed due to complications of childbirth. Birthing customs are very involved in midwifery and natural birth. The community also plays a very vital part in birthing customs in South Africa. Midwives are looked at as the backbone and the educator of the labor and delivery environments. It is customary for a midwife to stay with the pregnant woman all throughout their pregnancy. This means that from the start of when a woman finds out that she's pregnant, she will have her midwife, and the midwife will continue with that woman throughout her journey, even until after she has given birth. Pregnant women in this region depend on their midwife greatly. The midwife is often the one to be able to explain the birthing process and procedures, and even determine beforehand if a woman will have a problematic birth or not. The older adults in the community are given the responsibility of initiating the young women into motherhood. Now that I have analyzed the birthing traditions and customs in both the United States and South Africa, I will now explain some barriers that may arise that could affect the birthing customs. With the advanced technology related to childbirth in the United States, there are some barriers that women face that may prevent them from participating in certain birthing customs. Some barriers may include lack of familial support, financial expenses, and racial disparities are just to name a few. In research, lack of familiar support refers to the pregnant woman not having any assistance within her immediate or extended family or community-based services to help her during her pregnancy. Financial expenses are a burden that some women face that prevent them from experiencing the birthing customs here in the United States. The average price of delivering a baby in the hospital through vaginal delivery can range anywhere between $5,000 and $11,000, even with some insurance coverage. There are several barriers that affect the participation of birthing customs in South Africa. These barriers include lack of male involvement, transportation to health facilities, economical factors, and poor quality of care. In some low-income areas, food insecurity and scarce resources pose a huge threat to the pregnant population of not receiving the appropriate amount of nutrients necessary to keep both mother and baby alive. In most low-income areas, it is very common for there to be only one or two local hospitals between either one or two communities. Some women may face difficulties with transportation, which may prevent them from going to the clinic or facilities to give birth. Barriers prevent women from being able to participate in the birthing customs and traditions that are native to their country. Part 2. Demographics of countries. With the advances in American technology related to childbirth, there has been more successful birth. Common technology that has helped in maternal and fetal care during birth include fetal monitoring and blood pressure screening, maternal and fetal oximetry, and infusion pump. Although there is an advance in childbirth technology, the American culture has taken a shift when it comes to the ideas of birth. In the United States, the birth rate trend, it has seen that there's been a long-standing decline. This decline can be linked to the sexual reproduction education among young women and adolescent girls. Over the course of the 19th and 20th century, the population of the United States as a whole experienced a steady decline in the birth rate. Fertility rates fell from 4 to 8 children per woman to less than 3, and even in some cases it would drop as low as 2 children per woman. Researchers are asking what could have caused such a decline in fertility. It was a change in the cultural factors. Cultural values of family planning and contraceptives have influenced the birthing rate trend of the United States. In the US, the birth rate in 2019 was down 1% from 2018. This is now the 5th consecutive year that the birth rate has declined since the last increase was seen in 2014. Overall, the birth rate has had a steady decline throughout all races across the board among all women. Reproductive education has promoted better educated women who strive to improve maternal and child health. The South African birthing trend has followed the majority of the world. South Africa as a whole has maintained a steadily high fertility rate at an estimated 6 to 7 children per woman. However, at the end of the 19th century, research saw a decline. the fertility rate dropped to an average of about 4 to 5 children per woman. So now the same question stands. Why did the fertility rate experience a decline in South Africa? And the answer is, within the South African government, there has been an increase in education, awareness, and support for family planning. With the population of South Africa continuously growing for many years, there was a fear for the prosperity and survival of the South African economy and culture. With the family planning services provided, there has been a decrease in unwanted pregnancy and control over when and if women want to have any more children. Factors that affect if women in South Africa are utilizing birthing customs include both cultural and religious beliefs. If a community supports high fertility, then it is more likely that a woman would desire a high family size and be more likely to experience the birthing customs and traditions in South Africa. For women in South Africa, the two biggest deterrents of fertility and experiencing birthing customs would be marriage and lack of contraceptives. It is observed that married women are generally more likely to have more children than an unmarried woman of the same age. Part 3. Cultural similarities and differences among women. The cultural and lifestyle factors in a country include education, religion, ethics, and value. The role of culture is very critical when it comes to birth and maternal care. Many different cultural factors can influence women in whether or not they're likely to participate in the birthing customs within their country and communities. It is more likely that women will practice in birthing customs if they have appropriate access to the birthing customs and are supported instead of scrutinized within their community. In the United States and South Africa, some factors that influence women in birthing are level of education, use of contraceptions, and abortion. Level of education. A woman's level of education is essential to fertility. It is common to see that higher education has been associated with more and attentive prenatal care. This results in healthy birthing outcomes and fewer detrimental lifestyle and health consequences for both mother and baby. Higher female education universally goes hand in hand with lower and delayed fertility. In the United States and South Africa, there has been implementations by either community-based or government-based programs that have aided women in gaining better education in birthing and the overall well-being of women's health. Use of contraceptives. Methods of contraceptives have become more accessible and more effective over the years. As we have learned in this women's health class, there has been a dramatic increase in the percentage of individuals in developing countries that are utilizing contraceptives. The boom in use of contraceptive has been effective and essential to family planning. In turn, both in the United States and South Africa, the birth rates have experienced a decline. Abortion. Abortion is another cultural factor that women utilize that negatively affect birthing customs. This method, along with contraceptives, are used to protect unwanted pregnancies and aid in planning desired birth. There are many factors in both countries that exist that affect the participation of birthing customs. It is true for both countries that over time, women have improved and altered their reproductive behavior. After completing my research, a pattern was evident in both countries. Even though the cultural factors that I have listed here negatively affected women participating in birthing customs, they did overall positively affect women's reproductive health. Part 4. Ethical considerations and action. Ethical considerations are of great importance. Ethical considerations addresses the values of what are good and bad in terms of research. When conducting research, it is important to state and adhere to ethical protocol. All research participants should be notified of what the research is generally about. No harm should be brought to researchers and participants in any way whatsoever. It is also important for all participants to understand that they are free and able to leave at any time that they feel uncomfortable during your research and study. I have to stress the point and purpose of ethical consideration. It is a major element in creating and executing a research or a study. Before each study, participants should have given their full consent, and the level of confidentiality should always be maintained and provided. Ethical considerations are important because they support the values of mutual respect from both participant and researchers, and they promote the idea of fairness among participants and throughout the study's entirety. Within the United States, there are different government-based programs that are set in place to aid women who experience the birthing customs. For example, some federal programs include the Office of Women's Health, Health Start, a USA Health. There are even online help and forums and hotlines that pregnant women are able to utilize to find free or reduced prenatal care. Within South Africa, there are programs offered to expecting mothers throughout the government that will aid in their journey into motherhood and provide maternal services. Programs such as the Birthing Team help women in South Africa carry on their tradition and participate in birthing customs. The Birthing Team aids and visits to an OB if women are not able to find one. They assist in free health screenings and consultation, and they provide tools and support services such as midwives and doctors for pregnant women to utilize. Part 5. Summary and conclusion. We have reached the conclusion of my research and presentation on the birthing customs in both the United States and South Africa. To summarize, in the United States, it is more common for women to have a vaginal birth delivery in the hospital. However, even though advanced childbirth technology has made birthing a smoother transition for women, women are gaining an education in reproductive health and family planning, which has caused a drastic decline in the birthing rates overall. In South Africa, the birthing customs were more personalized than the US. Women were more likely to give birth naturally and in the presence of her midwife. With the government implementations of education on family planning and contraceptives, there has been a decline in the fertility and birth rates overall as well. Some cultural factors that affected the women in both South Africa and the United States included the level of education that women had on their overall reproductive health, the use of contraceptives, whether it was promoted or not promoted in their community, and the utilization of abortion. That also depended on whether their communities supported such decisions or no. I was able to learn about the birthing stories and traditions of women in both countries. I was also able to see how residing in a different country affected the women's ability to participate in birthing customs. After completing my research, I was also able to identify many support systems and programs that were set in place by government officials to help women who wanted to participate in the birthing customs that were native to their country. This concludes my presentation on birthing customs. Thank you for listening.